I'm here with Carolyn Hickman. She is our sales rep in Wilmington, and she's going to allow us to go inside her mind today. Carolyn, hi.
Hi, Sal.
You ready? I'm good. You ready to do this?
Yes.
All right. All right, so let's start at the beginning. As always, where were you born?
I was born in Kingston, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Where is that near?
So I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, actually, and it's like just south of Scranton, so like the northeast area.
Northeast Pennsylvania, okay.
Mhm.
As you're kind of going to New York State, I guess.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And what did your dad do for a living?
He was the CEO of a really small bank called North Penn Bank.
Okay. And your mom, what did she do for a living?
So she was a stay-at-home mom,
Uh-huh.
but her background was in bank regulation, and she worked for the United States Treasury Department.
Oh, wow. Okay, so both your parents were involved with money.
Finance.
Yes,
Yep.
finance.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any siblings?
I have a younger brother.
Younger brother. And where was high school for you? Same area?
Yes, Abington Heights in the Scranton area.
And after high school, what did you do?
I went to college. I went to High Point University
Okay.
in North Carolina, and I got my undergraduate degree in strategic communication, and that was in May of 2020. And then I got my master's in communication and business leadership in July of 21.
Also from High Point.
Also from High Point.
So you moved to High Point from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I wanted to get out of my hometown. I just wanted to change the scenery and the weather. You can't beat it down here.
Right.
So, yeah.
Did you use any of those degrees? Did you have a job that involved any of those degrees?
No, I did have a few internships here and there, and I did like social media marketing kind of in between the end of my senior year and the beginning of my master's program. But this job with Fidelity, I got it just a few months after I got my master's degree. So this is my first big girl job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and at some point, your parents moved from Pennsylvania to Wilmington.
They did. I was at High Point for about 2 years. I think I was like going into my junior year when they decided they wanted to kind of like retire down here near the coast. And then I eventually also followed them over here because I was like, I got to be near the beach, and I already loved North Carolina by then. So, yeah.
And so how did you get this job?
So funny enough, I mean, I was looking for all different kinds of jobs. I was open to, anything that I could get my hands on. I just wanted to, get out there and get experience. But my mom met Amy at a workout class actually, and was just like, hey, like, what do you do for a living? I'd love to hear about what you do. And Amy had said like, we'd love to have Carolyn come in for an interview. She sounds like she'd be a good fit. And then I came in and interviewed. So.
And when was that? When did you start working for Fidelity?
That was October of 21.
October of 21.
So just over a year.
So
now.
we were still dealing with COVID at that point.
Yeah.
And can you tell us about your first few sales calls? What were those like?
Awkward. I didn't really know what I was doing. And like I said, this is my first kind of real job, so I was definitely more nervous. But it was, a good thing, I think, to throw me kind of out there in that situation. I think I learned a lot from it. So.
And do you, having done this now, I guess it's not quite 2 years, going on 2 years, how comfortable do you feel now?
I wouldn't say I feel like 100% comfortable yet. I think it kind of depends on the office. Like if I have a really great relationship with someone, obviously I'm going to feel more comfortable. But overall, I'd say it's a million times better than what it originally was.
Okay,
Yeah.
Million times better. How long do you think it took you to get to that point where you started to feel more comfortable in those initial visits?
Probably 6-ish months, I'd say, just because that's like 6 visits per firm. And, I was having to get people to recognize my face, and kind of get used to having me there. And a lot of them were like, we kind of miss Kristen. And I was like, oh, well, it's me now. Like, I can help you too. So, yeah, but after 6 or so months, I'd say it probably started getting easier and more familiar. So.
What role, if any, did training play in that development for you?
So I didn't really have any formal training at the very beginning, but those first few times with you, I think really helped me feel more confident in what I was doing and talking to people. So, yeah.
How important is continued training to you now?
I think it's super helpful, just because I am, sort of new, a year and a half. And I like getting, any feedback I can from my superiors like yourself, because it's, that's the only way I'm gonna grow and get better at this. Yeah, it definitely helps me, makes me feel more confident. So
If there's one thing that you've received by way of training that has helped you the most, is there one thing you can point to?
So Tia actually told me that how she goes about it is, you build the relationship first, and you pay attention to who the clients are as like a person, because that kind of thing really goes a long way versus just like trying to go in there and like make a sales pitch and like get their business. So she told me that like relationship building like is a really important aspect of this.
So focus on the relationship first and worry about getting business down the road.
Right.
Yeah, and she's really good at that too. I think that's something she shared with us as part of her development.
Yeah.
Was, I want them to know who I am first, and then once we've established that, we can start to go into the business aspect.
Right.
What was maybe it's the same answer, maybe it's a different answer. What was the best piece of advice you were given that you were able to apply to your sales experience?
Yeah, probably the same. I do find it really helpful to build those relationships with people, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier to start talking about business and something that's a little bit more uncomfortable if like I already know so much about you, and you know my face, and you know things about me. So yeah.
Can you describe your ideal customer and what that person looks like?
I love talking with people who are extroverted because like their warmth makes me feel more comfortable. If someone like, I'm kind of an introvert, but if someone is like really happy and really outgoing and excited to talk to me, and they'll have a conversation about life or anything, I definitely feel more like open myself and comfortable. So
yeah, they say opposites attract, and
right.
I think there is something to that as introverts, and I would put myself in that category too, that we're drawn to extroverts because they're so different from us.
Right.
And certainly somebody who can hold a conversation is easier to talk to than somebody who doesn't hold a conversation.
Right. And I always say that like people who are more extroverted like bring out that in me, whereas like if I talk to someone who's more introverted, like it makes me revert even more.
Right.
Makes me nervous. So
right, because now the pressure's on you to like make the conversation.
Right.
Last year we read a book called Take the Stairs. What does that mean to you, take the stairs?
So I think it basically means like there's no easy route to success, and choosing the hard option and doing the hard stuff is what's going to end up benefiting you in the long run.
Right.
And like I said, I'm an introvert, so it would be really easy and like comfortable for me to take the easy way out in a lot of situations, and just kind of like go back into my shell. But I really do try, like I said, to push myself into feeling uncomfortable, because that is where the most growth happens.
So can you give us a specific example where that's occurred for you?
Yeah, I mean, so one example is that I have suffered with lots of chronic health issues in my life. Nothing too crazy or anything to worry about, but I think I take the stairs when I, continue to exercise and wake up early in the morning, or showing up at work on days where I don't feel good and putting a smile on my face, when I'm just not like there, and I'd rather, be at home in bed and, dealing with my issues that way.
Well, that's an example of doing the hard things. Can you describe an occasion, if you're being honest, where you didn't take the stairs?
I don't know if I have like a specific example, but I'd say that like I'm less likely to take the stairs the more nervous I get. So like therefore with like a difficult client, someone who's maybe more of like a fighter or like a little bit unfriendly, someone who we can't really seem to get a whole lot of business from, and I've like yet to break that barrier. That's maybe sometimes where I revert into that mindset of like, oh, I should, take the easy way out and not take the stairs. So.
Can you describe for me a time where you felt empathy for a customer?
So a customer that I have, a pretty solid relationship with, they confided in me that their dog had just passed away. And I think I was, able to express my empathy because my dog has also recently passed away. And, I just think showing empathy really helped further develop that relationship. And that was something that, we connected on. And since seeing her, she's actually hugged me the next several times that I stopped in, and she's like, how are you doing? So I think it
helps that connection, doesn't it? That
Yeah.
human connection we have. How in that instance did you express empathy to that person?
I just told her that, it's one of the hardest things that you ever have to go through. It's like losing a family member. And I told her, if you ever need someone to talk to, you can reach out to me. I just told her how sorry I was and that I understand what it's like to go through that loss.
Because you'd had a similar experience. You mentioned a fighter just a few seconds ago.
Yeah.
And so that comes from a book called Navigate that we also read last year. Describe navigating, or describe the book Navigate for us.
Yeah, I think navigating is basically about being able to adjust yourself to different clients in different situations, people who have different personalities. People are different, so you can't expect to go out into the field and act the same way with each person. You have to, change what you're doing to best suit the needs of your clients.
It's not one size fits all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you navigate when you're out in the field?
I do.
Can you give us an example of a time when you've navigated?
Like I said about with the fighters, I think that's where I typically have to navigate the most, because fighters are, so straight to the point, and sometimes they're completely uninterested in having any small talk. And that's harder for me, like I said, because I really do enjoy talking to people and having those conversations. And like I said, I start with building relationships. And so if they're kind of uninterested in building that relationship, it's something that I have to kind of think about and navigate around, and I have to go into those specific offices with kind of a different mindset.
Yeah. To the point, spit out whatever it is that you want to say, and then get the heck out of there.
Right. Yeah.
Which navigate style do you connect with the most?
So yeah, I think I briefly touched on this, but I think I really connect with entertainers.
The extroverts.
Yes, people like Tia, people who can talk to a wall, because like I said, their bubbly personalities make me feel welcomed and comfortable and just ease the situation. So.
And which navigate style do you think describes you?
So when I did the little test that was inside the book, I got counselor for the one test and detective for the other test. And I feel like I resonate with both, because I am sometimes a task-oriented perfectionist that is super motivated by accuracy, but I'm also a team-oriented person who's a really good listener and is motivated by consistency and hates change. I just resonate with both of those descriptions so much. So I have yet to really figure out exactly what I am. I don't know if you can be a mix of the two, but
you can definitely be a mix of the two.
Yeah.
There's not just four styles and that's it.
Right.
I'm curious whether you feel like you connect with other counselors or other detectives because they're so similar to you.
Yeah. I'd say maybe I connect with the counselor a little bit more. Because the detective's the one that likes all the numbers, right?
Numbers, yeah.
Yeah, it's not as easy for me to spit out that information, at least not yet, only being a year into this position. So I think probably the counselor's a little bit more.
Right, so when we got together in January as a group, we talked about value propositions. Is there a typical value proposition that you like to talk about when you're out in the field?
Something that I think, is really important to clients are turnaround times for lookups and commitments. And I always love to bring up that we have Amy, we've, in-house counsel who is available by phone or email to answer any of those difficult questions. And I think that matters to a lot of the clients. So
for sure, particularly attorneys, I would imagine.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think is your most effective sales tool?
Right now, I would probably say the building relationships and the customer relationships that I have, grown over the last year.
Mm. Okay, how important is scheduling to your approach to sales?
I think it's very important. Typically, what I do is usually at the beginning of the week. Sometimes I do it on Fridays if I'm planning that far in advance. But I kind of like to look at my week, and I look at reports, and I kind of see who needs a visit, who I need to bring a little snack by to, and I usually plan everything based on whether I need to drop something off. Like Michelle will call me and say, hey, I need you to take this to a client, or even if a client needs me to pick up some finals. So it's not the same every single month because of those things, but I do kind of like to keep it somewhat similar, just because I'm kind of like a task oriented, schedule-y person. So.
Well, certainly more efficient that way, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes the demands tell you to switch it up in particular ways.
Right. I probably see our Wilmington clients more frequently than I see some of our other clients who aren't sending us quite as much. So it's definitely dependent on demand.
What would you say is your favorite question for a repeat customer? So not a new prospect you never talked to, but if someone you've seen before, what would you say is your favorite question to ask them?
I like to ask them, is there anything that we could be doing better for you?
Okay.
Anything that we can improve? Because I don't think they're always expecting that question. I think I like to say also I'm here if you need me. You're welcome to reach out. But I like to ask how are you feeling? Are we good? Is this working for you? Is there anything that we can?
I'm soliciting feedback.
Right.
Yeah. Do you ever get a response that's sort of negative, like the ball was dropped?
I haven't yet. Not and yet. I don't know, if people just haven't really felt comfortable telling me that yet because I am newer, or if we really are just doing awesome. And I hope that it's, the latter.
Right.
But yeah, I haven't really received any negative comments yet. Yeah.
Okay, same question. What is your favorite question? But this time to a prospect. So somebody maybe you've never met with before. How do you like to start out the conversation?
Usually I ask them who they're currently using, and why they like using them, because that's going to help me kind of start my sales pitch and my process.
So the C in class.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Do you have an anchor with any customer? And if you do, could you describe an anchor with somebody?
Yeah. So typically it's obviously something that we have in common,
right?
Like a hobby or a TV show. And I think the TV shows one can be really fun, because if you're both watching something at the same time, it can be fun to step out of the business for a second and talk about gossip about The Bachelor or something like that.
Can you believe that happened?
Right.
Or what about this?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had anchors with customers that were directly tied to TV shows too.
Right. Like reality TV,
in particular, I suspect because those can be a little bit scandalous.
Yeah.
Do you have any conversation starters that you just kind of have ready at in case you ever need them?
We did talk about this in our last class. I think that's something I want to start to implement. I don't typically prepare anything, because like I said, that kind of does make me more nervous if I have something in my head that I'm okay, this is exactly what I'm gonna say. So I feel more comfortable reading the room and kind of see how people are feeling and kind of start more organically. But I do think I want to slip that in a little bit, have some specific questions in case I'm in a situation where I'm it's awkward or I can't get them to talk.
Or is that silence? That silence,
silence
can be so painful.
Yes, extremely painful.
How much time do you spend on self-reflection, and what does that look like for you?
I think I spend a good amount of time on self-reflection. I'm actually pretty hard on myself, but what I like to reflect on is the small changes that I can make. so that each time I go into the office, I can be just a little bit better than the last time. And I know we've talked about that, like just make sure that every visit, you get one more piece of information, or you're just like a little bit more comfortable. It's just like every time has to be just a tiny bit better. So that's what I like to try and make sure I do.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
How much time, if any, do you spend on self-improvement, and what sort of self-improvement activities do you engage in?
Yeah, I mean, I like to read. I read a lot of like articles on my phone. I also really enjoy writing, and I always make little notes to myself in like the notes app of my phone. Like I'm constantly just like telling myself like things that you said to me or things that Tia said to me, like reminding myself of like pointers and things that I can use out in the field.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's really cool. Describe one way in which you, Carolyn Hickman, bring value to a customer.
I think I'm a really good listener. And a lot of the time I think that, like Tia said, that's all that a person really like wants. So like whether it's like the good or the bad, or like personal life or about business, like if they're complaining about something else that they're doing at work that day, I think that I'm like really good at listening to that and being kind of like just a friendly face for people to like vent to or talk to. Because I think sometimes, people are in there and they don't see the light of day, you know what I mean? And then I come in and they're like, oh, this is like a breath of fresh air. Like we can actually just like talk about whatever. So I've had, all different kinds of conversations, and I think that's like some value that I can bring.
Sure.
Yeah.
Outside of listening, and maybe listening is the answer, but is there something other than listening that you try to do to make yourself likable to your customers?
Kind of like what we talked about. I like to figure out, what their buying behavior style is, and cater the conversation and like how I'm, reacting to how they like to converse. And I think that makes me more likable. Like I'm not going to come in super bubbly and like obviously wanting to chat to a fighter,
right,
like I said. So I think that's something that makes me more likable, is like kind of, being a reflection of the client.
Or the opposite, come in real choppy and short answers with an entertainer, right, who wants these open-ended questions.
Yeah.
And how was your weekend and those sorts of things.
Right.
How important is it to you to have someone to help you be accountable?
So for that, I don't think it's that important for me, because I have always been like really good, in school and everything else, like at holding myself accountable. I'm like very organized and like a dependable person. So it's not that important for me to have someone who's like always checking in on me and like making sure that I'm getting stuff done. But I mean, it's always appreciated anyway. But
how about goals? Do you set goals for yourself? How important is goal setting to your process?
It is super important. I, set myself goals frequently. I think it's important to keeping me focused and like kind of keeping me on task, because if I don't have, those goals, sometimes I'm like, I just go through the motions, but like I said, I have like on my notes, I have an entire work folder and I have tons and tons of different notes. And one of them usually includes like my to-do list or like my goals for the week.
Can you give us an example of a goal that you might set for yourself?
Well, because like I said, I'm more new. My goals are kind of less about like numbers yet. I think eventually I'm gonna get there. But it's more about like the small ways that I can improve going into offices and like improving like the conversations I have with clients and things like that.
Okay. In what ways, if at all, do you acknowledge inside staff's contributions to the operation?
I try to do it all the time. I like to stop by here and, chat with Michelle and Aaron and Amy and, tell them that I appreciate them. And whenever I bother them with like an email or whatever, I like to, make sure that, I say thank you so much. Like, I know this was probably annoying to you. Like, I try to be really appreciative, so.
Why do you think that's important for the outside sales rep to have, a relationship and to acknowledge the efforts of inside staff?
Probably because service is what like our clients, really care about. And I think, me, cheering on the inside staff and saying like, this is awesome, like thank you for doing this, just helps them feel appreciated and like makes them want to continue to do like great work.
Yeah, and it's a team effort, right?
Right.
So you don't want two parts of the team at odds with each other,
Right.
or pointing fingers or blaming.
Right.
You want everybody to kind of be pushing in the same direction.
Motivated to, keep going and yeah.
And I mean, everybody wants to hear nice things about themselves, right? Not negative things.
Right.
How do you engage in prospecting? So how do you find who's out there and which new attorneys are out there?
I haven't really done a whole lot of this yet, but actually the other week I had a current customer let me know of like a potential new client and where they were like located and like what the firm name was and all that. She's like, you should really like get over there, and that was just like really awesome to me that she let me know of that like new opportunity. So they're on my list. I intend to give them a little visit sometime soon.
And that is really a great way to find out who some of the new entrants are.
Right.
Have you considered whether that may be something you ask your customers in the future?
Yeah. I think, like I said, it'll be easier to ask like some of those that I have, really great relationships with. But now that like she kind of offered up that information, I feel more comfortable asking for it.
How do you keep track of facts or what we call data points that you obtain from customers? What's your system for that?
Well, I kind of have it like in multiple places. I do have like hard copies of things because I like to write things down. But when I'm out in the field, like I said, I have my notes app. And so it's really nice for me to just be able to like hop back in my car after a visit and like write down some quick little facts on my notes app that I would otherwise forget, like on my drive home. So.
Do they ever leave your notes app and get placed in some other place, or you just have a bunch of notes in your phone?
Just have a bunch of notes in my phone right now.
All right.
I've been, playing with it and thinking about better ways to organize it, like on my computer or something that would be a little easier. I don't know. But for now, I'm pretty savvy with the phone. So I like being able to just like quickly look at it like on my phone before I'm walking in to a place, and just like remind myself of like those key points. So
if you had an app on your phone that you could dump this information into sort of an organized fashion, would that be?
I would love that.
That would be
and
good.
That would be so good for me, just because like I love collecting that data and I am super organized, so it does kind of stress me out sometimes when like I'm the one who's like creating the columns like for the information to go into.
Right.
Like it would be so nice to have like a database or an app where I could put all that. So.
Bring that information up.
Right.
Can you give me a couple examples maybe of some data points that you seek out in the field?
So like, who do you like to use for your title insurance, obviously? How many closings are you doing a month? And then a lot of questions about, themselves, like information about their family, what they like to do in their free time, or do they have kids, things like that.
Yep. Do you ever talk about prior policy data when you're out in the field? And if so, what does that sound like?
Yes. I've recently kind of started to do it. It's definitely something that makes me like a little bit more nervous. But I'd love to look at it and kind of get a better idea on, who's reaching out to us, who's not, who's kind of telling me that they are and, they're not. And then I have used it a few times to revisit with people and say like, hey, we've sent so many priors, but we haven't really had anything back. Is there anything that like we could be doing better? And I kind of try and like turn it back on us. Like, is there like, did we do something? Like, is there a reason, or how else can we make you happy?
Right. Yeah, and oftentimes just saying, we sent you 3 priors,
right,
can get you an order, and you don't have to say, I really need you to give me an order.
Right.
You just say, well, we sent you 3 priors,
right,
and we're so happy that we were able to help you with that.
Right.
And you start planting the seed.
Right.
What is an example of some closing words that you might use when you're visiting with customers?
Usually I just try to reiterate, like we're here to help. Let me know. You can email or call me if you need anything at all. I try to just make myself sound like very available to their needs. Like, we are here, if you need anything. So.
And how often would you say you use closing words? Every visit? Every other visit?
I try and do it every visit, because it is kind of easy, like we're chatting about something, maybe we're not talking about business at all. I try and like finish off with, saying, okay, well, thanks so much. Let me know, like, if we can do anything else for you. I'm always available. It's just an easy way to kind of end the conversation. So I try and do it every time.
Perfect. I'm asking you this next question on a day that you're doing a Fidelity Connect event.
Yes.
But do you put on events for customers?
Yes. So far, we've had 2 Fidelity Connect events. This will be our 3rd this evening. And so far, that's all that we've done so far. We're thinking about an annual event, but that's still in the works right now.
And have you noticed the number of people who attend these Fidelity Connect events starting to increase?
Yes, very much so. And it's been a little bit of a learning curve for me. Like the first event, I just did like email blasts, and I don't think everyone, either got put in their junk folder or they forgot about it. But I kind of used it when I went out to market, like physically. I would take a paper copy of like the flyer,
right.
And I'd say, hey, just a reminder, I sent you an email. I don't know if you got it, but you could put this up in the office, and that way, anyone who wants to come can come. Drinks are on us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And sometimes, like, when they're getting these emails, I'm sure they're super busy and they're maybe reading past all that information. They're like, oh, what is this? Like a random event. But I think me going in person and providing that information for them has helped interest go up.
Experience can be a wise teacher, can it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're on your 3rd Fidelity Connect event. You're seeing your numbers increase. How do you think an event like that helps you as a sales rep?
I think it provides like, a more lax environment for customers to come, hang out with us, get to know us. For the newer customers, some of them, don't really have like faces for names. So like they might know of Michelle, but, getting out there and getting to meet her is like, I think like a foundational piece. And it's a good time for like me to further like build those relationships. Like, hey, I'm not here to talk about business with you tonight. Like, let's just have a beer and, relax. And I think it just gives people an opportunity to get to know us. So.
Okay, one more question before we move on to our 10 questions.
Okay.
Do you track any data trends in the market? Are you looking at any data to track trends in the market?
Not right now. I usually hear it from my clients. That's like the one thing they love to tell me. It's like a go-to for them. They love to tell me what the market's doing and like what's going on. So usually I just hear it from, like word of mouth.
Word of mouth while you're out in the field?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I have 10 questions for you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What is a place where you would want to live?
Anywhere that has a beach. Anywhere.
How about the opposite? A place where you would not want to live?
Like New York City or Chicago or just any big city. Those places are like super fun to visit. Obviously, I've been there. It's so much fun, but I'm more of a small town girl at heart, so I wouldn't want to live there.
What is something that makes you happy?
Playing tennis.
Okay. What is something that makes you sad?
Animal cruelty makes me so sad. I don't know how much time you spend on social media, but like on TikTok or Instagram, there's so many like sad dog videos of like animal cruelty, and it might sound silly, but that just like absolutely breaks my heart, and it's like the saddest part of my day.
What is a sound or noise that you love?
I love the sound of rain when I'm like falling asleep or like getting into bed. I love to open my windows. It's like just so calming and like peaceful.
How about the opposite? What is a sound or noise that you hate?
Similar to the New York City thing, I hate the sound of like car horns or like busy traffic or anything like that.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I would love to be in holistic healthcare.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about the opposite? What is a profession that you would not like to do?
I've thought this ever since I was a little girl, and my answer has not changed. I would hate to be an astronaut. I just think it's terrifying, and there's like so much that's unknown. I'm also like claustrophobic, and I know they have to be in like really tight spaces, and like if I was going to pass away, I would not want it to be in space.
Okay.
You know?
All right. So you're not going to be taking up the whatever the SpaceX planes up into space anytime soon.
No.
Okay.
No, thank you. I'm going to stay right here, feet on the ground.
Last question. If you could have dinner with any person, dead or alive, who would that be?
Very easy for me. I would pick my grandfather on my dad's side because he passed away before I was born.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great.
Yeah.
That has been another episode of Inside the Mind of the Sales Rep. Carolyn and I are going to go get a beer now.